Are you ready, guys? We're gonna be riding the metro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be the fastest, easiest way to reach the market we're gonna visit.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the Jamaica Market, the Jamaica Market. It's the best market for this time of the year because it's the flower market. So all the families are gonna be buying their decorations, flowers, candles, everything over there. It's gonna be very lively.
Yeah, let's
Metro
do it.
is part of the experience. The metro system was part of the infrastructure that the city developed in order to host the '68 Olympic Games. We go for colors, but we also go for the logos and the icons. Every station has their own logo, their own icon. The logo of the icon is related to the surroundings or to the name of the station. But over the time, it has been very, very helpful for Mexicans that don't speak Spanish. Believe it or not, there are a lot of Mexicans that don't speak Spanish.
What do they speak?
They speak one of the native original indigenous languages. Nowadays, there are still more than 100 indigenous languages spoken in Mexico.
You know what's crazy is that we have the same thing in the Philippines.
Exactly.
It's
Because
wild.
we both have a very old, ancient culture, you know? Like
Yes.
before the Spaniards came to both places,
Yes.
we were already having aboriginal cultures, indigenous cultures.
Yes.
And for example, in the case of Mexico, we already were having like massive modern civilizations, you know, like the Aztec, the Mayans,
Yeah.
that were like way advanced to their time, you know?
Yeah.
Even when these cultures are seen through the Western perspective, they were more advanced and smarter than what we created them for.
Oh my God, it has wheels.
It has rubber wheels. It's one of the main differences with the one in New York. It needs a lot of maintenance because there's a lot of wear and tear, but it makes a smoother ride, less noise. It brakes nicely.
So what got you into food?
I love food. All right.
So do we.
I
yeah.
love eating, and I have always loved it.
Yeah.
Why I love it? I think there were a bunch of influences in my life. My parents. My mom, she is a really good traditional Mexican cook.
Amazing.
She doesn't cook a lot of
Amazing.
foreigner dishes. Like she goes for the traditional comfort Mexican food.
Yeah.
My father, on the other hand, he was always very interested in other types of cuisine.
Okay.
So when we were growing up, my brother and I, we were exposed to other cuisines.
Would he take you or would he cook it himself?
No, he will take us to restaurants.
Okay.
So he was working all week long, but on
Yeah.
weekends, he will take us every single week to a restaurant.
So he was the ultimate foodie.
Yeah, basically he was a foodie before being a
The
foodie was a
OG
thing.
foodie.
Yeah, so
That's
he
so
will take us
great.
to Spanish restaurants, French restaurants, steakhouses, Japanese restaurants. So he took us to places that were fairly new, where you were introduced to other cuisines and ingredients that
Yeah.
were totally weird for us, you know. He started to introduce me to that, and he started to tell me about wine and how usually the people that cooks the food tends to be kind of like cultured souls that know a little bit about everything.
Yes.
Culture, wine, languages. So I started to grow up without knowing it, like admiring chefs and cooks, because from my perspective, they were kind of like a cultured people, you know, that
Yeah.
were really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how it started. At some point in my life, I realized that when food is made properly,
Yeah.
it can reach the level of art.
Yes.
But it's ephemeral art.
Totally, yes.
It's something that lasts seconds, you know. But what is art? Some people define art as any human expression that triggers emotion.
Yes.
So according to that definition, cooking is art because there's nothing that triggers more emotions and more feelings than cooking. Talking with my brother, like we have realized that we both have the same memories, but we link them in a different way. So for example, when he speaks like, do you remember about that one day that we went to this
Right.
place and did this and did this? What comes to my mind is like, yeah, I remember what we ate that day. So my memories are completely linked to food.
It's interesting you say, oh my gosh, it's so full.
It is crowded.
Okay, it's really crowded.
So we will have like a 5-second window.
Okay, to push ourselves in. Okay.
Yes, literally push ourselves in. All right,
Oh
because
my
we're not
gosh.
gonna be like, guys,
Okay.
let's break it. Let's
Like New York.
probably. Well, this just feels like Monday rush hour.
Yes, I'm sorry. Perdón. Oh my God. It's interesting that the way you describe that, because most of my friends, that's how we talk about memories and vacations, and it's like, oh, you remember that one time we went here? Yeah, the food was amazing.
And the first thing that you remember is the food. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so speaking of memories, do you remember the first time you had Filipino food?
Yes, and it's gonna be very surprising what it was.
Okay.
It was Jollibee's.
Yeah.
It was Jollibee's.
Where? In Dubai?
In Dubai.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it was kind of like my third day
Yeah.
on the city. Like
Okay.
I just arrived. I was just introduced to the staff,
Yeah.
and some of the Filipino waiters were having Jollibee, and they told me, "Would you like to join us?" And like
great.
honestly, I think my first approach to it was like fried chicken,
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
and then I started to be like introduced to other dishes.
Yeah.
Most of them, like honestly, I don't really remember the names
I don't either.
because
but
of the language.
Yeah.
This is our stop. So here is where all the people that is not going to the races go down. But they are going to the market. All right. So still a lot of people in the market.
So fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's very much appreciated to always take a shower and brush your teeth before. Food
Wow.
is what sets us apart from animals. We are the only animals that intellectualize things about what we are eating. We're the only animal that takes something that nature gives and change it, transform it into something enticing. But not only enticing, into something social.
Yeah.
Food is a social component. We gathered around fire in the Neolithic to cook food, to tell stories, to share. We develop it as a way of nourishing our bodies, but also to have this social
The
interaction.
connection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Most animals eat for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
most
I
animals
thought about
just eat whatever they find
Yeah.
if they are the type of animal that has that
Yeah.
instinct.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't think about it. They don't think what they're going to eat. But we're the only ones that actually think about it. We have developed ourselves out of agriculture. Like we started growing food and we stopped being nomadic. We started growing food and we became civilizations. Like
Yeah.
we are the only ones that do that. Food is history. That's why I love history.
Oh, yeah. It's
Like
huge.
the food
You can
tells
tell.
you the history of people. If you know how to read food, you know how to read a country, a town, you know how to read the people. That's why usually the countries with the most ancient history, with the oldest history, with more ancient cultures, like for example India, China, Mexico, the Philippines, we tend to have the most interesting astronomy, the most interesting culinary cultures, because we have been boiling down ingredients, techniques, cooking methods for thousands of years.
Yes.
I believe that if you know how to read the food, if you pay close attention to what you're eating,
Yeah.
and then start to ask the right questions, you will understand more about the people
Yes.
than by visiting museums. I love museums. I'm a big
Yeah,
nerd
yeah.
and I love museums. They're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But I think a more approachable way to get to learn a new culture or history
Yeah.
is just to see what the people is eating.